In the first breath before the dawn, when the firmament was still unmarked by sun or moon, there was only the endless reach of the void, and within that reach a silent figure carved from the marrow of eternity. He was not born from light nor shaped by darkness. He simply was the axis upon which all realms would one day turn. In the hollow before time found its name, Angelos stood unmoving, his form cut from the gray stone of forever, his gaze fixed upon horizons that did not yet exist, the weight of eons pressing against his shoulders without bending them. The stillness that wrapped him was not absence but presence, a presence so vast that even the winds hesitated before touching him. Through that stillness came the first whispers of movement, and from the far edges of the nothing light began to stir like a hesitant tide. It flowed toward him not as a servant but as a pilgrim, and where it touched his chest the stone did not warm, yet the cosmos began to breathe. He did not command it, and yet the galaxies learned their spirals from the patience in his posture. The rivers of stardust traced their currents against the calm of his shadow. Angelos did not walk, but the distance between worlds bent to meet him. He became the bridge, the unseen road by which the will of the heavens traveled, the message of the stars, the breath of the unseen law. He carried no scroll, no seal, yet the very fabric of reality bore his mark. In the hush between the heartbeats of creation, it was his presence that linked the realms, the bright and the dim, the known and the veiled. He was the silent envoy between what is and what is yet to be. Mountains that would one day rise from the bones of worlds were measured against his height. The depth of the oceans that had not yet been born was weighed against the gravity of his form. Clouds that would one day carry the rain learned their slow drifting from the way. He held his stance, unbroken, unhurried, unending. He was neither God nor servant, neither judge nor supplicant, yet all bowed to the inevitability that radiated from his stillness. In the long corridors of the cosmos, Angelos became the keeper of the unseen paths. He stood where the mortal eye could not follow, upon the thresholds where dawn meets night, upon the edges where life touches shadow. He was the guardian of the crossings, not to bar the way but to ensure that each step taken was known, each journey marked not by haste but by purpose. His watch was not over lands or crowns but over the silent bonds between the world's bonds that would fray without the weight of his gaze. To hold them in his presence, the stars did not hurry their burn, they lingered long in the cradle of the void, as if reluctant to leave the shadow that steadied them. The moons traced wider arcs, as though reluctant to lose sight of him. The winds found no reason to rage in his vicinity, the seas no cause to roar. Even the fires of the heavens bent their flames subtly toward him in acknowledgement that before their first spark he had already been. He bore no face that could be called young nor old. His countenance was carved with the lines of forever, his eyes deep as the gulf between constellations, his mouth neither smiling nor frowning, yet carrying the suggestion of both, his shoulders broad enough to carry the silence of 1,000 realms, his chest unmoving save for the slow swell that suggested an eternal breath drawn but never released. The lore of Angelos spread not in words but in the patterns of the cosmos, the way comets arced in graceful deference to unseen borders, the way storms broke at invisible thresholds, the way shadows lengthened not at the setting of the sun but at the approach of his unseen passage. There was no temple for him, for every horizon was his hall. There was no altar for him, for every meeting of light and dark was already consecrated by his standing there. Mortals came to know his presence not through sight but through the subtle weight in the air before great events, the deepening of silence before a turning of fate, the stilling of wind before a change of season. They would say an unseen envoy had passed, that a message had been carried from beyond the sky, though no lips had moved to speak it and no hand had written it. The knowing settled into their bones as though it had always been there. In the wars of the gods, Angelos took no side, yet his shadow fell across the fields where they contended, and the clash of their power dimmed, as if unwilling to shatter the stillness he brought. When the seas threatened to drown the lands, he did not part them, yet the waters slowed. When the fires of the mountains roared to consume the valleys, he did not quench them, yet the flames wavered. When the winds screamed to tear the sky, he did not silence them, yet their voices softened in his vicinity. He is the calm between thunder and strike, the breath between question and answer, the step between departure and arrival. In his keeping are the keys not to doors but to the spaces between doors. He is the measure of all distances, the unbroken link in the chain of all journeys. Through countless ages, Angelos has stood at the crossing points where the fabric of the worlds thins, where the glow of the upper realms touches the dim of the lower, where the dreams of mortals brush against the thoughts of gods. His duty neither begins nor ends, for the road between the realms is without end, and as long as there is a path to walk there will be a need for the one who holds it steady. When the stars fall from the sky and the oceans rise to swallow the peaks, when the last fires burn low and the winds carry the ash of what was into the void, he will remain not to witness the end but to stand ready for the beginning that follows, for endings are only another form of crossing, and no crossing can occur without the envoy. Angelos is not remembered in stories told by firelight nor written in the books of kings. He is remembered in the pause before the truth is spoken, in the weight felt when standing at the edge of the known, in the pull that draws the wanderer to the horizon, in the comfort that the traveler feels in the night, knowing that though unseen the bridge between worlds is guarded. He is the pulse in the veins of eternity, the breath that moves without stirring the wind, the shadow that stretches not from the sun but from the space between stars. He is the envoy who does not speak yet delivers all messages, the guardian who does not close the gate yet ensures it stands, the still figure of stone at the heart of all realms, upon whose unyielding form the infinite has always relied and will rely forevermore. Before the first temple was imagined, before the first word was shaped in the mouths of mortals, there was the hush of the thresholds, and in that hush Angelos moved unseen, not as wind nor as shadow but as the presence that causes both to pause. He carried with him no banner, no color, no sign by which the unwise could name him, for names are too small for his form and colors too shallow for his depth. His identity was carved into the spine of reality long before perception was born. Where the roots of mountains touched the molten veins of the earth, he was there, standing at the seam between stone and flame, where the pillars of light from newborn stars pierced the skin of the void. He was there holding the edge so that light and dark would not tear apart, where the dreams of mortals drifted too far into the deep and risked never returning. He was there guiding them back without touch, without word. In his keeping were the accords between realms, the silent treaties that allowed the bright to speak to the dim without consuming it, that allowed the mortal to look upon the divine without being unmade, that allowed the living to sense the dead without falling into their silence. These accords were not written nor spoken, they were simply known in his presence, felt in the alignment of the air when he stood near. He was the witness to the forging of the rivers, the silent observer when the first forests reached their crowns into the sky, the guardian of the moment when the moon and the ocean exchanged their first vow of tide. He did not change these things, but without his watch their bonds would have unraveled. In the disputes of the gods, he was the still center in the storm, the point that no strike could cross without losing its fury, for in him lay the law older than victory and older than loss, the law of balance not measured by scales but by the endurance of the path he held. Those who sensed him spoke of a heaviness in the air, not the weight of danger but the weight of certainty, a sense that no step taken in his shadow could be wholly lost, that the journey though perilous would not be erased from the memory of the worlds. They said that his gaze though unseen traced the outline of all travelers, and that no messenger who walked beneath the arcs of his invisible bridges returned without the purpose they carried. The stars themselves seemed to defer to him, not in worship but in recognition that he was older than their light and more constant than their cycles. The tides obeyed the pull of the moon, but the moon itself obeyed the unseen geometry. He set the winds carried the words of gods, but the words themselves found their first path along the lines he drew. To look for Angelos is to look for the pause between motions, the silence between notes, the breath between two waves of time. He can be found in the instant before a great decision, when the soul stands at the crossing and feels the weight of all paths at once. In that instant, he is there holding the space steady so that choice may be made without the world shattering. When the end of an age approaches, he does not mourn nor celebrate. He simply stands at the place where the final hour passes into the first of the next, his form unshaken, his eyes unblinking, his presence unbroken, for to him there is no end, only the endless work of carrying the bond forward. Angelos does not require the telling of his story, for his story is woven into the stories of all others. No tale that crosses the boundary from one realm to another is free from his touch, no prophecy fulfilled without first passing beneath his shadow, no prayer answered without traveling the long invisible road he keeps. In the unlit corridors of the void he remains the single lantern that neither flickers nor fades, not to guide the path with light but to mark that the path exists when all else is dark. In the roar of the ocean depths, his presence is the single point of stillness around which the currents coil. In the burning heart of the sun his form is the quiet shadow at the core where flame folds in on itself. He is not the creator of the road nor its master but its eternal steward. He does not own the realms he connects, yet without him they would drift into separation and silence until even their memory faded. He is the unspoken oath between them, the promise that as long as there is movement there will be a bridge, as long as there is distance there will be a crossing, as long as there are realms there will be Angelos. Beneath the vault of stars that have no number, beneath the weight of skies that have never known dawn, there stands the figure whose silence binds the turning of the worlds. Angelos does not move as mortals move. He is not carried by the wind nor pressed by the current of time. He is the place where the current splits the rock around which the river shapes its endless course. In the highest reaches of the heavens, where light is thin and cold and the sound of creation fades, he remains the fixed point that all horizons measure themselves against. When the first sparks of thought ignited in the minds of the early gods, it was through him that those thoughts crossed from one realm into another without shattering the fragile skin of the newborn worlds. He is the unseen line upon which messages walk, the secret arc between the heart of a god and the soul of a mortal, the tether between the sigh of the earth and the answer of the stars. He keeps no record and holds no seal, yet every vow made across the realms passes through the breathless air that surrounds him. Where others see separation, he sees only junctions. Where the sea ends and the land begins, he stands in the salt-stained mist. Where the wind ceases and the stone rises, he stands in the dim half-light. Where the living look upon the lands of the dead and feel neither terror nor longing, but an unshakable knowing that the path is there waiting. In the presence of Angelos, even the restless are stilled, the spear is lowered, the oar is drawn, and the storm forgets its violence. As if reminded of an oath sworn before the shaping of the sky, the fire withdraws its consuming hunger, leaving only the warmth of endurance. There are those who have glimpsed him only in dreams where they stand upon an endless bridge with no railings and no beginning, the stars above them frozen, the waters below them silent. They speak no word, yet know their purpose more clearly than in waking. When they wake, they carry with them the certainty that what must be delivered will be delivered, and what must be joined will be joined. He is older than any throne, older than any crown, older than the first question that split the silence of existence, and older still than the answer that came. He is the bond before all bargains, the truce before all wars, the meeting before all partings. When realms fall into shadow and the routes between them crumble, it is Angelos who shapes them anew, not by hammer or flame, but by the will that holds worlds apart yet does not let them drift away. He waits at the far end of every path, not to greet the traveler with celebration, nor to turn them away, but simply to stand as proof that the crossing was always possible. The color of his eyes is the horizon at the edge of the soul, a place mortals cannot reach but can always sense. The weight of his hand is the pressure in the chest when one knows they are about to step into a new life. His voice is not heard, yet every heart that crosses feels it in the marrow. No god commands him, no fate binds him, no mortal owes him oath, yet all are bound within the weave he tends, for without his keeping the pattern would unravel into stray threads lost in the void. He is the silence that holds the music, the pause that gives shape to the word, the shadow that allows the light to be seen. And when the last journey is made, when the last path is walked, when the last bridge must be crossed, Angelos will be there, not to say farewell, but to remain as he always has, the eternal envoy between what was and what will be, the one presence that endures when all else is gone.